Imagine reaching into your pocket and pulling out a penny that looks ordinary, maybe even boring. Now imagine discovering that this single coin could be worth more than your monthly paycheck. Or even more. Sounds impossible, right? But stay with me, because today we're uncovering the real story of the 1960 mint Mark Lincoln 1-cent penny, a coin millions of Americans have handled without ever realizing what they were holding. And yes, some versions of this penny have sold for shockingly high prices. So the real question is not, is this coin valuable? The real question is, do you already own one? This story begins in 1960, at the height of American industrial power. The United States was confident, expanding, and minting billions of pennies every year. The Lincoln cent, featuring Abraham Lincoln, was already a familiar face in every household. Most people saw these coins as nothing more than spare change. But collectors know something most people don't. When coins are produced in massive numbers, mistakes happen. And sometimes those mistakes create legends. The 1960 penny was struck at the Denver facility of the United States Mint, identified by the small d below the date. On paper, it's a common coin. Millions were made. But hidden among them are rare errors and special varieties that separate a 1-cent coin from a 4-figure or even 5-figure treasure. And this is where excitement meets fear, because once you know this information, you can never unknow it. How many pennies have already slipped through your fingers? One of the most talked about features of the 1960 penny is the date itself. In 1960, two different date styles were used. Collectors call them the large date and the small date. To the untrained eye, they look almost identical. To a trained collector, they are worlds apart. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people never check. They spend these coins without a second thought. Could that have been you? Have you ever laughed at a penny and tossed it aside? That laugh might have cost someone thousands. Now let's talk about errors, because this is where the real money lies. Some 1960 pennies were struck off-center, leaving part of the design missing. Others show doubled letters or numbers, where the date or the word Liberty appears to have a shadow. These are not damage. These are minting mistakes. And collectors love mistakes. Why? Because mistakes are rare, and rarity is power in the coin market. Ask yourself this: if millions of coins are perfect, and only a few are flawed, which one would wealthy collectors fight over? Condition is everything. A worn 1960 penny you find on the sidewalk is usually worth just a cent. But a sharply struck, brilliant example with no wear can be a completely different story. Coins graded in top condition by professional services like PCGS or NGC have sold for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. And yes, some error coins have gone much higher. This is where urgency comes in. Every year, fewer pristine examples survive. Time is not on your side. Now let me interrupt you for a second with a serious question wrapped in humor. If someone offered you $1 today, or the chance to check a jar of old pennies that might contain a $1,000 coin, which would you choose? Exactly. Yet most people still don't look. Why? So how do you actually make money from coins? How do you go from pocket change to serious wealth? It starts with awareness. You check dates. You check mint marks. You look for odd details. You don't clean the coin ever. Cleaning destroys value. That shiny penny you polished might have been worth more before you touched it. Painful but true. Next comes selling, and this is where many people make costly mistakes. How to sell old rare coins in the USA is not about walking into the first shop you see. It's about strategy. Local coin dealers can offer quick cash, but auction houses often bring maximum value. Reputable auction platforms like Heritage Auctions and Stax Bowers specialize in rare coins and attract serious buyers with deep pockets. This is where competition drives prices up. This is where ordinary people have seen extraordinary results. You might be thinking, can I really sell coins for big money? The answer is yes, but not every coin, and not without knowledge. That's the difference between dreamers and winners. Winners learn before they sell. They ask questions. How to sell old rare coins safely. How to avoid being underpaid. How do auctions work? How do I get my coin graded? These questions separate curiosity from cash. Here's the emotional reality. Somewhere in America, right now, a 1960 penny with a rare error is sitting in a drawer, ignored. Somewhere else, a collector is willing to pay a premium to own it. The only thing standing between them is knowledge. Fear keeps people from acting. Excitement pushes them forward. Which one will you choose? This isn't just about coins. It's about opportunity. It's about realizing that wealth doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it whispers from the bottom of a jar. Sometimes it hides in plain sight. The people who build wealthy lifestyles are not always the ones who earn more. They're the ones who notice more. So here's your challenge. Tonight, look through your old change. Look at your pennies. Ask yourself the questions others never ask. Could this be rare? Could this be valuable? Could this be the coin that changes everything? Because once you start looking, you'll never see pocket change the same way again. Imagine this. You're holding a penny. Just 1 cent, something you might ignore, toss in a jar, or leave behind on a counter. But what if I told you that one specific penny from 1970, with a small letter D under Lincoln's date, has shocked collectors, triggered bidding wars, and in rare cases sold for life-changing money? Today's story is not just about a coin. It's about awareness. Because the biggest fortunes are often missed by people who don't know what they're holding. Let me ask you something before we go any further. How many pennies do you have right now in a drawer, a box, or an old jar somewhere in your house? And when was the last time you actually looked at them closely? If your answer is, I'm not sure, then you're exactly the person this story is for. The 1970 Lincoln 1-cent penny was struck at the Denver facility of the United States Mint. At first glance, it looks ordinary. On the front, you see the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln, a design Americans have trusted for generations. On the back, the Lincoln Memorial. Nothing flashy, nothing obvious. And that's what makes this story dangerous, because the most valuable versions of this coin don't announce themselves. They hide in plain sight. Now here's where the fear kicks in. Millions of these pennies were minted, and most of them are worth exactly 1 cent. But a very small number were struck with errors, and those errors are where serious money lives. The scary part? Most people never check. They spend them, they donate them, they lose them, and once that happens, the opportunity is gone forever. So what kind of errors are we talking about? One of the most talked about is the off-center strike, where the design is misaligned and part of the coin is missing its image. Another is the double die error, where letters or numbers appear doubled, almost like a shadow. There are also clipped planchets, where a piece of the coin is literally missing because of a minting mistake. These are not damages from use. These are factory errors, and collectors pay aggressively for them. Here's a quick pattern interrupt. If this penny were a lottery ticket, would you really throw it away without checking the numbers? Because that's exactly what people do with coins every single day. In documented auction sales, high-grade 1970 error pennies have sold for hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars, depending on the type and clarity of the error. In rare, pristine conditions, especially with strong doubling or dramatic errors, the prices climb fast. This is where excitement enters the room. Because this is not fantasy. These are real sales, real buyers, real money. But now comes the most important question viewers always ask. How do you actually sell old rare coins? How do you sell coins the right way without getting ripped off? How do you make money from coins, especially if all you have is pocket change? The first step is knowledge. Never clean your coins. That one mistake alone has destroyed more value than almost anything else. Cleaning a coin can turn a $1,000 piece into a $1 disappointment. Second, learn to identify errors under good lighting and magnification. You don't need expensive equipment. A simple jeweler's loupe is enough to start. Next comes authentication and grading. Serious buyers trust third-party grading services. A professionally graded coin carries authority, and authority brings higher prices. This is where the difference between interesting penny and auction-ready asset is made. Now let's talk urgency. The coin market is driven by demand, and demand rises when collectors realize fewer examples exist than they thought. Every year, more rare coins disappear into private collections. That means fewer available for sale and higher prices for those who act early. Waiting can cost you money. Acting can create it. Another question viewers constantly ask is where to sell old and rare coins in the USA. You have several options: reputable coin dealers, major auction houses, and well-established online marketplaces. Auction houses are especially powerful for rare error coins because competitive bidding pushes prices higher. That's where the phrase maximum dollar becomes real, not just marketing language. Let me flip the script for a moment. What if the goal isn't just selling one coin, but changing how you see money entirely? Coins are one of the few assets where knowledge can beat capital. You don't need to be rich to start. You need to be aware. That's how people go from pocket change to serious money, from ignoring pennies to hunting them. And yes, people ask all the time, is it really possible to go from pocket change to millions? The honest answer is this: it doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't happen by luck alone. It happens through education, patience, and recognizing value before others do. Every major collector started with one coin that made them look twice. So here's the final question, and it's the one that matters most. What if the 1970 penny sitting quietly in your home right now is the one with the error? What if the difference between you and the person who sold theirs for thousands is simply that they checked, and you didn't? After this video ends, don't scroll away. Don't forget. Go look. Open the jar. Pull out the pennies. Check the dates. Check the mint marks. Because wealth doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes, it whispers from the bottom of a drawer, waiting for someone smart enough to listen. Welcome back. Before you scroll away, let me ask you a simple question. What if the smallest coin in your pocket right now could quietly be worth hundreds, even thousands of dollars, and you've been ignoring it for years? Sounds crazy, right? That's exactly why today matters. Because the 1979 D mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny is one of those coins that looks ordinary, feels ordinary, and yet hides stories, errors, and opportunities that many people miss until it's too late. Picture this. It's 1979 in the United States. Gas prices are rising, inflation is on everyone's mind, and the average American is just trying to get by. Inside the US Mint, millions of pennies are being struck at the Denver facility, each marked with a small letter D. No one there is thinking about wealth or auctions or collectors. They're just making change. And that's exactly how valuable coins are born, quietly, without warning. Today, those same pennies sit in jars, drawers, and old coffee cans across America, waiting for someone to look closer. Now let me be honest with you, because credibility matters. Not every 1979 D penny is worth big money. Most are still worth 1 cent. But here's where fear, excitement, and urgency collide. Some of these coins were struck with errors. Real errors. Mint mistakes that should never have happened but did. And when mistakes happen at the mint, collectors pay attention. Big attention. So what kind of errors are we talking about? Imagine looking at Lincoln's face and noticing it looks doubled, like the coin shifted while being struck. That's a double die error. Imagine the coin being off-center with part of the design missing, or struck on the wrong planchet, giving it the wrong weight or color. There are even pennies with weak strikes, clipped edges, or die cracks that look like lightning bolts running through history. These are not scratches from circulation. These are born errors. And that difference can mean everything. Here's a quick pattern interrupt for you. Be honest. How many pennies have you thrown into a jar without looking at them? Thousands? Tens of thousands? Now imagine tossing a winning lottery ticket into that jar because it looked boring. Funny, right? Painful too. That's what happens when people don't know what to look for. In the collector market, condition is king. A 1979 D penny with a strong error and high-grade condition can sell for serious money, especially if it's professionally authenticated. Coins graded in mint state, especially those with sharp details and original luster, attract competition. And competition is where prices climb. Auction rooms don't whisper, they fight. This brings us to the heart of the story, the turning point. This is where curiosity turns into action. You might be wondering, how do I know if my penny is valuable? How do I sell old rare coins? How do people actually make money from coins? Can pocket change really turn into something life-changing? These are the exact questions smart collectors ask before everyone else catches on. First, you look. Not quickly, not casually. You examine the coin under good light. You check the date, the mint mark, the edges, and Lincoln's portrait. Then you weigh it. You compare it. You research sold prices, not asking prices. That's critical. Asking prices are dreams. Sold prices are reality. Second, you protect the coin. No cleaning. Ever. Cleaning a coin can destroy its value instantly. Collectors want originality, not shine. Think of it like antique furniture. Once you sand it down, the history is gone. Third, you authenticate and grade when it makes sense. Professional grading companies exist for a reason. When a coin is certified, buyers trust it. Trust increases demand. Demand increases price. This is how ordinary sellers become confident sellers. Companies like PCGS exist to separate real value from wishful thinking. Now let's talk about selling, because this is where excitement meets urgency. How do you sell old and rare coins in the USA? You have options, and each one matters. Local coin shops are fast but often conservative on price. Online marketplaces offer reach but require experience and patience. Auctions are where top-dollar results often happen, especially for error coins with strong eye appeal. Well-known auction houses like Heritage Auctions attract serious collectors who are ready to compete. And here's the emotional truth most people don't talk about. The fear of being cheated keeps many people from selling at all. They sit on valuable coins for years, telling themselves they'll do it later. Later turns into never. Meanwhile, markets change, tastes shift, and opportunities fade. Urgency isn't panic. Urgency is respect for timing. Let me ask you another question. If you discovered tonight that one penny in your home could help pay off debt, fund a dream, or simply give you peace of mind, would you still ignore it? Or would you act? Now we move into the final act, the resolution. This is where everything connects. The 1979 D. Lincoln penny isn't just a coin. It's a reminder that wealth doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it sits quietly in your pocket, waiting for knowledge to unlock it. People who succeed in coins aren't lucky. They're informed. They ask questions like how to sell coins, how to make money from coins, how auctions work, and how grading protects value. And let's add a little humor to reset your attention. Imagine explaining to your family that the penny they laughed at just sold for more than their car. Awkward dinner conversation, right? But it happens. Not every day, not for everyone, but often enough that collectors stay curious. Here's what I want you to take away. Check your change. Check your jars. Check those old rolls in the drawer. Learn before you sell. Sell before you forget. And never assume something has no value just because it's small. History has a habit of rewarding those who pay attention. If you're serious about building a smarter, wealth-focused lifestyle through coins, this journey starts with one question and one penny. And that penny might already be in your hand. Welcome back. Let me ask you a question that might change the way you look at every penny in your pocket. What if one small, ordinary-looking coin from 1985 could be the difference between loose change and a life-changing payday? Sounds unbelievable, right? That's exactly why so many people miss these coins every single day. They spend them, toss them in jars, or ignore them completely. While collectors quietly pay serious money for the right one. Today, we're talking about the 1985 D Mint Mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. A coin most Americans have seen, touched, and forgotten. But hidden among millions of normal pennies are rare errors and high-grade examples that can be worth far more than 1 cent. And here's the scary part. Some of these coins have already slipped through fingers like yours, spent at gas stations, dropped into tip jars, or buried in couch cushions, never to be seen again. Act 1 begins with the illusion of ordinary. In 1985, the U.S. produced billions of Lincoln pennies. The Denver Mint alone struck an enormous number with the small D Mint mark under the date. On the surface, this makes the coin seem common, boring, and worthless. That belief is exactly what keeps valuable examples hidden in plain sight. And if you've ever thought, it's just a penny, how much could it be worth? Congratulations, you're thinking like 99% of the population. And that's where opportunity lives. Here's where excitement kicks in. Not all 1985 D pennies are the same. Some were struck with errors, mistakes that should never have left the mint. Off-center strikes, double details, clipped planchets, weak strikes, and even die cracks. These errors turn an ordinary coin into a collector's target. A penny with a visible error can sell for tens, hundreds, or even thousands of dollars depending on how dramatic and rare that mistake is. Imagine finding a coin you've owned for decades and realizing it could pay a month's rent, a car payment, or even fund a vacation. Suddenly, that penny doesn't feel so small anymore. And then there's condition. This is where fear and urgency come into play. Most 1985 pennies are worn down from decades of circulation. But if you have one that somehow survived in near-perfect condition, especially with sharp details and original luster, the value can jump fast. High-grade examples certified by professional grading services have sold for shocking amounts. We're talking about a 1-cent coin selling for hundreds or more because collectors compete fiercely for the best of the best. And every year, fewer pristine examples exist. Coins get scratched, cleaned, damaged, or lost forever. Time is not your friend here. Quick pattern interrupt. Be honest. When was the last time you actually looked at a penny before spending it? Exactly. That habit alone has cost people real money. Act 2 is the awakening. This is the moment when people realize that coins are not just money. They are assets. And assets can grow. Many viewers ask, how do I sell old rare coins? How do I start selling coins the right way? How do I make money from coins? The answer starts with knowledge and patience. First, you must learn how to identify what you have. Look closely at your 1985 D penny. Check the date, the mint mark, the edges, the lettering, and Lincoln's portrait. Does anything look doubled, off-center, or unusual? Does the coin look unusually clean or sharp for its age? If yes, stop. Do not clean it. Cleaning is one of the fastest ways to destroy value. Next question viewers ask all the time. How do I sell old and rare coins in the USA? There are several paths, and choosing the wrong one can cost you money. Local coin shops can be a good starting point, but remember, dealers need to make a profit. Auctions, especially online auctions, often bring higher prices because collectors compete against each other. That competition is where big money comes from. Some of the highest prices ever paid for modern pennies happen because two collectors wanted the same coin and refused to lose. Another common question: how much is my 1985 D penny worth today? The honest answer is this. A normal circulated coin might be worth just a cent or slightly more. But an error coin or a high-grade example can be worth anywhere from tens of dollars to thousands, depending on rarity, condition, and demand. The maximum dollar value comes from coins that combine rarity, strong eye appeal, and professional certification. That's where the serious money lies. Here's a moment of humor to reset your attention. If pennies were really worthless, collectors wouldn't be arguing over them like kids fighting over the last slice of pizza. Yet here we are. Act 3 is transformation. This is where pocket change turns into possibility. Many successful coin sellers started exactly where you are right now, curious, skeptical, maybe even a little doubtful. They checked jars, drawers, old piggy banks, and inherited collections. They learned what to look for. They asked smart questions. How do auctions work? How do I protect myself from low offers? How do I turn small finds into big wins? And over time, those small wins added up. From pocket change to millions may sound dramatic, but the mindset is real. Coins are one of the few assets where knowledge can instantly multiply value. The same penny to one person is spare change. To another, it's a rare collectible. The difference is awareness. And once you have it, you never look at money the same way again. So here's the urgency. Every day you wait, valuable coins are being spent, damaged, or lost. Every day, someone else is learning, selling, and profiting. The question is simple. Will the next rare 1985 D penny be found by you? Or will it pass through your hands unnoticed forever? Before you leave, ask yourself this. What's hiding in your pocket right now? Welcome back. Let me ask you something that might sound simple, but could quietly change the way you look at money forever. What if the next life-changing opportunity isn't in stocks, real estate, or crypto, but sitting unnoticed in a jar, a drawer, or your pocket right now? Today, we're uncovering the true story of the 1987 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny, a coin most Americans have touched, spent, and ignored. Yet in rare cases, it has sold for shocking amounts of money. And before you laugh and say, "It's just a penny," stay with me, because that exact thought has already cost some people thousands of dollars. This story begins in the late 1980s, when America was changing fast. The Cold War was still in the air, Wall Street was booming, and the U.S. Mint was quietly producing billions of pennies. Among them was the 1987 Lincoln cent with no mint mark, meaning it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. At first glance, it looks ordinary. Same familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln, same copper color, same size you've seen your whole life. But here's where things get interesting and a little uncomfortable. Most people never look twice, and that's exactly why valuable coins slip through fingers every single day. Now let me ask you a question that might make you uneasy. How many pennies have you spent without checking them? Hundreds? Thousands? Millions across a lifetime? That quiet fear you're feeling right now is justified, because certain 1987 no-mint mark pennies were struck with errors, tiny mistakes made during production, that turned a 1-cent coin into something collectors aggressively hunt for today. And the worst part? These errors are invisible to people who don't know what to look for. Imagine this. You're cleaning out an old drawer, maybe from your parents' house. You find a small pile of coins. You're tempted to dump them into a coin machine for a few dollars. But what if one of those pennies could pay a month's rent, or a vacation, or more? That's not fantasy. That's happened. Some 1987 no-mint mark pennies show off-center strikes, where the design is visibly shifted. Others show double die errors, where parts of the date or lettering appear doubled, as if the coin has a shadow. There are even rare examples with clipped planchets, missing metal caused by a cutting error. These aren't scratches. These aren't damage. These are mint errors, and collectors pay serious money for them. Here's a pattern interrupt for you. If pennies were boring, why do auction houses fight over them like rare art? Exactly. Boring doesn't sell for 4 figures. Now let's talk value, because this is where excitement replaces doubt. A regular 1987 no-mint mark penny in circulated condition is usually worth face value. But error coins are a different universe. Depending on the type and severity of the error, some have sold from $100 to $500. High-quality double die or dramatic off-center examples in excellent condition have reached $1,000 or more at auction. And pristine, professionally graded pieces? They attract bidding wars. This is where urgency comes in. Once collectors identify these coins, they disappear into private collections, sometimes forever. So the real question becomes, how do you sell old rare coins? How do you know if what you have is valuable? How do people go from pocket change to thousands or even millions over time? It starts with education and ends with smart action. First, never clean your coins. Cleaning destroys value instantly. Second, learn to spot errors using a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe. Third, separate anything unusual. Ask yourself, does the date look doubled? Is the coin off-center? Is something missing that shouldn't be? Fourth, get it evaluated. Professional grading services and reputable coin dealers in the USA can authenticate and grade your coin, which often multiplies its selling price. Now let's answer another big viewer question. How do you sell old and rare coins in the USA? You have options. Local coin shops are a starting point, but auctions are where rare error coins shine. Major auction platforms and coin auction houses attract serious buyers who understand true value. This is where coins stop being change and start being assets. And here's a truth many people don't like to hear. The wealthy think differently about small things. They ask, what if? Instead of, it's probably nothing. That mindset alone has created fortunes. Coin collecting isn't about luck. It's about awareness, patience, and timing. Let me ask you something else. If a penny can sell for hundreds or thousands, what else have you overlooked in your life? That question alone has stopped people mid-scroll and changed their habits. As we move toward the end of this story, everything connects back to one simple idea. The 1987 no-mint mark Lincoln penny teaches us that value isn't always obvious. Opportunity often hides inside what looks ordinary. Fear keeps people ignorant. Excitement wakes them up. Urgency pushes them to a CT.so before you spend another penny without looking. Pause. Before you dump that jar of coins, inspect it. Before you assume wealth only comes from big investments, remember that millions have been made by people who understood small details better than everyone else. And finally, ask yourself this. What if the next coin you touch isn't just money, but a message? A reminder that wealth favors the curious, the patient, and the prepared. If you want to learn how to make money from coins, how to sell rare coins, how auctions really work, and how everyday Americans turn overlooked change into serious wealth, then this journey is just beginning. Because sometimes the smallest coin carries the biggest lesson. Imagine this for a moment. You reach into your pocket, pull out a simple brown penny, and without even realizing it, you're holding a coin that could be worth more than a brand new luxury car. Sounds crazy, right? That tiny 1988 Lincoln 1-cent coin with no mint mark might look ordinary, but for some people it has already turned spare change into life-changing money. And here's the uncomfortable question you should ask yourself right now. What if you already owned one and didn't even know it? Most people think all pennies are the same. They drop them into jars, car cup holders, or donation boxes. But history has a funny way of hiding value in plain sight. The 1988 no-mint mark Lincoln penny was struck in Philadelphia, where coins traditionally carry no mint mark at all. It features the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front, a design Americans have trusted for generations. But in 1988, something unusual happened. And that's where opportunity begins. Now let's be honest for a second. If I told you a penny could be worth thousands, even tens of thousands of dollars, your first reaction might be skepticism, or maybe nervous laughter, because that's how the brain protects itself from disappointment. But collectors don't laugh at errors. They hunt them, they chase them, and they pay serious money for them. Here's where fear kicks in. Fear of missing out. Fear that you already spent a fortune without knowing it. Because some 1988 no-mint mark pennies were struck with errors that should never have left the mint. We're talking about double dies, off-center strikes, misaligned dies, and unusual planchet errors. Mistakes made inside the walls of the United States Mint that slipped into circulation and quietly waited for someone smart enough to notice. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you actually looked closely at a penny? Not just glanced at it, but really examined it. Checked the date, the lettering, the thickness. Because that tiny difference, barely visible to the naked eye, could be the line between 1 cent and a 5-figure payday. Collectors have paid strong money for high-grade 1988 no-mint mark Lincoln pennies with confirmed errors, especially those in near-perfect condition. And condition matters more than most people realize. A coin that's been sitting untouched in a drawer for decades can be far more valuable than one that's been bouncing around in pockets. That's why urgency matters. Every day a rare coin is mishandled, cleaned, or scratched, its value quietly disappears. Now here's a quick pattern interrupt for you. Ready? Don't clean your coins. Ever. I know. Your brain says, clean it so it looks better. But collectors hear that and feel actual pain. Cleaning a coin can destroy up to 90% of its value instantly. Think of it like washing a signed painting with soap and water. Funny image, right? But painfully true. So how do people actually make money from coins? How do they go from pocket change to serious wealth? It starts with education, patience, and the willingness to ask the right questions. Questions like, how do I sell old rare coins in the USA? Where do I sell coins safely? How do auctions work? And how do I avoid being ripped off? The smartest sellers never rush into the first offer. They authenticate their coin through reputable grading services, which lock in condition and credibility. Once a coin is certified, everything changes. Now you're not just someone with a penny. You're a seller with a documented collectible. And that's when auction houses and serious buyers pay attention. High-end auctions, including firms like Heritage Auctions, have shown again and again that rare error coins attract competitive bidding. When two collectors want the same coin, logic disappears and emotion takes over. Prices climb fast. That's how ordinary people have turned forgotten coins into major financial wins. But here's another uncomfortable truth. The window of opportunity doesn't stay open forever. As more coins are discovered and documented, the truly rare examples become harder to find. That's why the people who win in this space are the ones who act early. They search now, They learn now. They ask questions now. So let me ask you directly. Do you have a jar of pennies at home? A box in the garage? A drawer you haven't opened in years? What if one of those coins could pay off debt, fund a dream, or change how you live? What if the only thing standing between you and that outcome is knowledge? The journey from pocket change to serious money isn't magic. It's awareness. It's knowing what to look for, how to protect what you find, and how to sell it the right way. And it starts with a simple decision to stop ignoring the small things. Because sometimes, the smallest coin carries the biggest surprise. Before you walk away from this, promise yourself one thing. The next time you see a penny, you won't dismiss it. You'll inspect it. You'll question it. You'll respect it. Because wealth doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it waits quietly, right there in your hand. Welcome back. Before you scroll away, let me ask you a serious question. What if the next penny you touch quietly carries the power to change your financial future? I'm not talking about fantasy or hype. I'm talking about a real American coin, one that millions of people have already overlooked. The 1995 no-mint Mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. A coin so common that it hides in plain sight, yet in certain forms, it has sold for shocking amounts of money. And here's the uncomfortable part. Most people who owned these coins spent them without ever knowing what they had. Don't let that be you. Imagine holding a penny and thinking, this is nothing. Now imagine learning that collectors have paid thousands, sometimes far more, for the right version of that same coin. That emotional gap between ignorance and awareness is where wealth is either lost or created. And today, you're choosing awareness. This story begins in the mid-1990s, when the United States was flooded with new pennies. In 1995, billions of Lincoln cents were struck without a mint mark, meaning they were produced at the Philadelphia facility of the United States Mint. On the surface, nothing looks unusual. The familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln faces right, the date reads 1995, and there's no letter beneath it. Ordinary, predictable, boring, or so everyone thought. But history has a habit of hiding opportunity inside routine. While most of these coins are worth just 1 cent, a small number were struck with errors and rare characteristics that turned them into collector gold. This is where fear quietly enters the room. Fear that you might already own one and don't know it. Fear that you might spend it tomorrow. Fear that opportunity passes silently if you're not paying attention. Now let me ask you something uncomfortable. When was the last time you actually looked at the pennies in your pocket? Not glanced at them, but really looked. Because some 1995 no-mint mark pennies were struck with double dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, clipped planchets, and die cracks that transformed them from pocket change into auction material. These aren't scratches. These aren't damage from circulation. These are mistakes made during the minting process itself, and collectors crave them. Here's the exciting part. A 1995 double die obverse penny, in high grade, has sold for thousands of dollars. Even more if professionally graded and authenticated. Imagine that. A coin once ignored in a jar on a dresser suddenly becoming the down payment on a new chapter of life. Sounds unreal, right? That disbelief is exactly why so many people miss out. Let's pause for a second. Quick pattern interrupt. If pennies were really worthless, why do serious collectors spend years and fortunes hunting them? Think about that. Nobody builds wealth by following what everyone else believes. Now we move into the heart of the story. The transformation. This is where curiosity turns into strategy. You're no longer just listening. You're evaluating your own situation. You're asking real questions. How do I know if my coin is valuable? How do I sell old rare coins? How do people actually make money from coins? Can pocket change really turn into millions? The answer begins with education and discipline. You examine the coin under good lighting. You look for doubling in the lettering, especially on Liberty and In God We Trust. You check the date closely. You look for misalignment, unusual shapes, or metal flaws that look intentional rather than damaged. And here's a key rule wealthy collectors live by. Never clean the coin. Cleaning destroys value instantly. Once you suspect you have something special, the next step is authentication. This is where many people get nervous because fear of scams is real. But legitimate grading companies exist to protect both buyers and sellers. Firms like Professional Coin Grading Service and Numismatic Guarantee Company examine, grade, and seal coins so the market knows exactly what they are. That little slab of plastic can multiply your coin's value dramatically. Now comes urgency. Because the coin market is driven by timing. Demand changes. Prices rise and fall. Right now, error coins and modern rarities are hot. Collectors want them. Investors want them. And auctions are where serious money changes hands. Major platforms like Heritage Auctions have recorded strong results for rare Lincoln cents. That's where ordinary people suddenly realize they're not just selling a coin. They're selling a story. So how do you sell old and rare coins in the USA? You have options. You can sell through reputable coin dealers, online marketplaces with strong buyer protections, or auction houses where competitive bidding drives prices upward. The smartest sellers don't rush. They research recent sales. They understand market value. They let buyers compete. That's how maximum dollar value is achieved. Let me ask you another question. What would you do if a single penny helped pay off debt, fund a business, or secure your retirement? Sounds dramatic, but life-changing moments often start small. Almost laughably small, like a 1-cent coin. And yes, humor helps us breathe here because the idea is almost ridiculous. A penny? Really? But remember, people once laughed at those who collected comic books, baseball cards, and vintage watches. Now those markets are worth billions. The laughter always comes before the regret. As we move toward the final act, this becomes less about coins and more about mindset. Wealthy individuals ask different questions. Not, is this common? But, is this overlooked? Not, is it only a penny? But, what if it's not? That shift in thinking is how pockets of opportunity become pipelines of income. From pocket change to millions isn't a slogan. It's a pattern repeated again and again by people who paid attention when others didn't. The 1995 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny is a perfect example. Most are nothing. A few are everything. The difference lies in knowledge, timing, and action. So here's your call to action. Without hype, without exaggeration. Go look at your coins. Ask the right questions. How do I identify errors? How do I sell coins safely? How do I make money from coins instead of ignoring them? How do auctions really work? These questions separate collectors from spenders and investors from observers. Because the truth is simple and powerful. Opportunity doesn't announce itself. It whispers, sometimes from the bottom of a jar, sometimes from your own pocket, and sometimes from a single penny dated 1995, quietly waiting for someone who understands its value. If you stay curious, stay patient, and stay informed, you don't just collect coins. You collect leverage. And leverage, when used wisely, can change everything. Welcome back. Let me ask you something that might stop you cold for a second. What if the most powerful financial opportunity you've ever overlooked has been sitting quietly in a jar, a drawer, or even your pocket this whole time? Today we're talking about the 2003 no-mint Mark Lincoln 1-cent penny, a coin that most people spend without a second thought, yet one that has shocked collectors, sparked bidding wars, and changed how many Americans look at their spare change forever. Picture this. It's 2003. Gas prices are rising, life feels expensive, and millions of pennies are being struck at the Philadelphia facility of the United States Mint. These coins leave the presses without a mint mark, completely normal at first glance. No special shine, no warning label, nothing to suggest that some of them will later become highly desirable to collectors. And that's exactly where the story begins, because the most valuable coins never announce themselves. Here's the uncomfortable truth that creates fear and urgency. Millions of Americans have already spent these coins. They've dropped them into tip jars, tossed them into parking meters, or handed them back as change. And some of those pennies may have had errors that today are worth serious money. That thought should make you a little uneasy, because if you're not checking your coins, you might already be giving wealth away 1 cent at a time. Sounds crazy, right? That's what people said before rare pennies started selling for eye-opening prices. Now let's talk about why the 2003 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny matters so much. This coin features the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln, a design Americans trust and recognize instantly. That familiarity is exactly why errors slip through unnoticed. Collectors hunt for off-center strikes, die cracks, doubling on letters, weak strikes, and planchet mistakes. These errors aren't damage. They're minting accidents, and in the coin world, accidents can mean opportunity. Here's a quick pattern interrupt for you. Be honest. When was the last time you actually looked closely at a penny? Not just glanced at it, but really looked? If your answer is, I don't remember, you're not alone. That's why this market still exists. Opportunity hides where attention is. LOW.AS excitement builds. Let's address the big question everyone asks. Is a 2003 no-mint mark penny worth millions of dollars? In normal condition, no. And anyone promising instant millions is selling fantasy, not facts. But here's where things get interesting. Verified error coins in excellent condition have sold for hundreds and even thousands of dollars, depending on the type and severity of the error, the coin's condition, and demand at the time of sale. And those numbers can rise dramatically in competitive auctions. This is how small money turns into big money over time. Act 2 of our story is about awareness turning into action. Once people realize these coins can be valuable, the question changes from, is this worth anything? To, how do I sell old rare coins the right way? This is where many people make costly mistakes. They rush, they sell too cheap, or worse, they trust the wrong buyer. If you want to make money from coins, especially in the United States, education and patience are your strongest assets. So how do you sell old and rare coins in the USA? First, never clean your coins. That alone can destroy value instantly. Second, learn to identify errors or have your coin professionally evaluated. Third, understand where serious buyers are. Reputable auction houses like Heritage Auctions and Stack's Bowers specialize in connecting rare coins with collectors who are ready to pay top dollar. These platforms create competition, and competition drives prices up. Let me ask another question to reset your attention. What if the coin you've ignored for years could fund a vacation, pay off debt, or become the seed money for a wealth-building investment? Suddenly, pocket change doesn't feel so small anymore. Now we move into Act 3, where inspiration meets urgency. The real power of the 2003 no-mint mark penny isn't just its potential value. It's the mindset shift it creates. From pocket change to serious money. From ignoring coins to understanding assets. From spending blindly to seeing opportunity everywhere. This is how many collectors start. One coin leads to another. Knowledge compounds. And over time, so can profits. Viewers constantly ask, how do I start selling coins? How do I make money from coins without getting ripped off? How do auction shops determine value? The answer is simple but not easy. You research, you verify, and you choose trusted marketplaces. You learn grading standards. You watch past auction results. You treat coins not as lottery tickets, but as long-term assets. Here's the final emotional trigger, and it's urgency. Every year, more coins are lost, damaged, or permanently removed from the collectible market. That means surviving error coins become rarer. Demand doesn't disappear, concentrates. The people who win are the ones who act early, learn fast, and stay disciplined. So before you dismiss that penny in your hand, ask yourself one last question. What if this is the moment you stop overlooking value and start recognizing it? Check your 2003 no-mint mark Lincoln pennies. Learn the errors. Understand the market. Because wealth doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes, it whispers from the bottom of your pocket, waiting for someone smart enough to listen. Welcome back. Let me ask you something that might sound almost unbelievable. What if the smallest coin in your pocket, a single brown penny you've probably ignored for years, could be the key to a life-changing amount of money? Not a lottery ticket, not crypto, a penny. Today we're talking about the 2006 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent coin. A coin many Americans have spent without a second thought, and yet one that, under the right circumstances, can be worth serious money. I'm not talking about fantasy numbers or internet hype. I'm talking about real collectors, real auctions, and real people who discovered value hiding in plain sight. Picture this. It's 2006. Gas prices are climbing, smartphones are just starting to appear, and millions of pennies are rolling off the presses of the United States Mint. Among them are coins struck without a mint mark, meaning they were produced in Philadelphia, even though the word Philadelphia never appears on the coin. These pennies carry the familiar face of Abraham Lincoln on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the back. Ordinary, right? That's what everyone thought. And that assumption is exactly where opportunity begins. Here's the uncomfortable truth most people don't want to hear. The biggest money is often made by the people who pay attention when everyone else is distracted. While millions of 2006 pennies were spent on coffee, candy, and parking meters, a small number slipped through the system with errors. Tiny mistakes, a misaligned strike, a doubled detail, a flaw in the metal. Errors so subtle that the average person would never notice them. And yet collectors live for these mistakes. They hunt them. They compete for them. They pay premiums that can shock you. Now let me interrupt for a second with a simple question. When was the last time you actually looked closely at a penny? Not just glanced at it, but really looked at it. If your answer is, I don't remember, you're not alone. And that's why this matters. Act 1 of this story is ignorance. For decades, Americans have been told that modern pennies are worthless, that only coins from the 1800s matter, that if it's not silver, it's not valuable. That belief has cost people real money, because in 2006, the no-mint mark Lincoln penny was struck during a time of massive production. High-speed presses, tight deadlines. When volume goes up, mistakes follow. And mistakes are where value is born. Act 2 is discovery. This is where things get interesting. Collectors began noticing certain 2006 no-mint mark pennies that just didn't look right. Letters that appeared thicker than normal. Dates that seemed doubled. Lincoln's profile showing unusual texture. Some coins were off-center. Some had die cracks that looked like lightning across the surface. Others were struck on imperfect metal blanks. These are not damages caused after the coin left the mint. These are mint errors. And that difference can mean everything. Here's a little humor for you. If pennies could talk, most would say, I'm worth 1 cent. But error pennies would whisper, please don't spend me on gum. And yes, people have literally spent coins worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars on candy. That should scare you just a little, shouldn't it? This is where fear and excitement collide. Fear because you might already have owned one of these coins and let it go. Excitement because you might still have one sitting in a jar, a drawer, or a box in the garage. And urgency because every year more of these coins disappear into circulation, never to be examined again. Now let's talk money, because that's what you really want to know. What is the current market value? A normal 2006 no-mint mark penny in average condition is usually worth 1 cent. No magic there. But an error coin is a completely different story. Certain verified mint errors have sold for tens, hundreds, and in rare high-grade cases, thousands of dollars. The maximum dollar value depends on 3 things: the type of error, the condition of the coin, and demand at the time of sale. When multiple collectors want the same rare error, prices climb fast. And this leads us into Act 3, action. This is the part where most people freeze because they don't know what to do next. So let's answer the questions you're already asking in your head. How do you sell old rare coins in the USA? First, you do not rush to the nearest pawn shop. That's how value is lost. You start by identifying what you have. Look closely at your 2006 no-mint mark penny under good lighting. Use a magnifying glass. Compare it to images of confirmed errors. Ask yourself, does anything look unusual? How do you sell coins the right way? Education first, selling second. Consider having the coin evaluated by a reputable coin dealer or a professional grading service. Authentication builds trust, and trust builds price. How do you make money from coins? You treat them like assets, not spare change. You learn which platforms attract serious buyers. Auctions, especially online coin auctions, often bring higher prices when bidding competition heats up. Local coin shops can offer fast sales, while national auctions can offer maximum exposure. How do you go from pocket change to millions? It doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't happen by luck alone. It happens by awareness, patience, and smart decisions. One coin might not make you a millionaire, but a mindset shift can change how you see value forever. What about auction shops? Many high-value error coins end up there because auctions create urgency. When collectors know a rare coin is available for a limited time, emotion takes over. That's when prices jump. That's when maximum dollar value becomes possible. Let me ask you another question, and be honest with yourself. If someone offered you 1 cent for something worth $1,000, would you take it? Of course not. Yet that's exactly what happens every day when people ignore their coins. The 2006 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny is a perfect example of hidden opportunity. Most are common. A few are extraordinary. And the difference is knowledge. The people who win in this space are not gamblers. They are observers. They are learners. They are patient. So here's your challenge. Tonight or tomorrow morning, take 5 minutes. Just 5. Look through your change. Look through old jars, old boxes, old drawers. Ask yourself the questions we talked about. Could this coin be different? Could this be an error? Could this be worth more than I think? Because wealth doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it sits quietly in your pocket, waiting for you to notice it. Welcome back. Imagine holding a coin in your hand that looks ordinary at first glance. Just a tiny, copper-colored piece of metal. Maybe a penny you found in your pocket this morning. But what if I told you that this little coin could unlock a world of hidden wealth? Today, we're diving deep into the story of the 2007 no-mint Mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. A coin that has collectors buzzing and could be worth tens of thousands of dollars, maybe even more. Could the coin in your pocket be a secret treasure? Let's find out. Let's start with a question. How many times have you tossed a penny aside without a second thought? What if I told you that by doing that, you could be walking past millions of dollars? Sounds crazy, right? But the 2007 no-mint Mark penny is one of those rare exceptions that turns ordinary into extraordinary. Here's the story. The Lincoln cent has been a staple of American currency for over a century, and the 2007 issue was supposed to be just another year in a long line of pennies. But something unusual happened during production. Some coins came out without a mint mark. No D for Denver. No P for Philadelphia. A simple missing letter, but in the world of coin collecting, that missing mark could mean the difference between a few cents and tens of thousands of dollars. Now, you might be asking, how does a coin like this end up worth so much? And more importantly, how do you sell it if you have one? Imagine walking into a coin shop or an auction house and hearing a simple question, "Do you have any rare pennies?" And suddenly, the same penny you've been carrying in your wallet is now a gold mine. But before we go further, let's hit a quick pause. Ever wonder why some coins from your pocket are worth more than your car? I know it sounds like one of those late-night infomercials, but the truth is, rare coin errors like the 2007 no-mint Mark penny are scarce, verifiable, and highly sought after. Collectors don't just want them, they need them to complete their collections. That scarcity creates urgency. And urgency, my friends, creates value. So, what makes the 2007 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny so special? It's subtle, almost invisible to the untrained eye. But once you notice it, you can never unsee it. The missing mint mark is a sign of a production error at the Philadelphia Mint, and these errors are prized in the numismatic community. Some have sold for tens of thousands of dollars at auctions, especially when they're in pristine condition. Can you imagine selling a coin for that much that once bought a pack of gum? Mind-blowing, right? Now, I can hear you thinking, how do I know if I have one? How do I sell old and rare coins in the USA? Let's talk about that. First, condition matters. Coins that are clean, shiny, and untouched are the ones collectors are willing to pay top dollar for. Next, authentication is key. A certified grading from a trusted service like PCGS or NGC can transform an ordinary coin into a high-value collectible. And finally, selling strategy. Do you go to a local coin shop, list it online, or take it to an auction? Each choice can dramatically affect how much you make. Here's a pattern interrupt. What if I told you that one of these coins could be hiding in your kid's piggy bank, or under a couch cushion, or yes, even in your own wallet? You might be sitting on a fortune without even knowing it. And here's the kicker, this isn't just about money. It's about opportunity. From pocket change to millions, Rare coins have a way of turning everyday life into a story worth telling. But the clock is ticking. Collectors are constantly searching, and the market moves fast. If you find a 2007 no-mint mark penny today, waiting too long could cost you the highest possible sale price. So, what's the current market value? Right now, a verified 2007 no-mint mark Lincoln penny can fetch anywhere from a few $1,000s to tens of thousands, depending on condition and certification. Imagine turning a coin you might have overlooked into an auction-winning treasure. Wouldn't that be exciting? You might be wondering, how do I even start selling old rare coins? Where do I go? Who do I trust? These are important questions because the wrong step could mean leaving thousands or even millions on the table. You want to work with reputable dealers, consider online auction platforms with a strong collector base, and always get multiple opinions before finalizing a sale. And here's another question for you. What else might be hiding in your home in old jars, drawers, or boxes? What if that unassuming penny from 2007 is just the beginning? This is your chance to discover hidden value, to turn what seems ordinary into something extraordinary. So, here's the takeaway. The 2007 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is not just a coin. It's a doorway to wealth, a conversation starter, and a chance to be part of a rarefied world of collectors. And the best part? You don't have to dig through centuries of coins to find your treasure. Sometimes, it's right there in your pocket. Ask yourself this before you reach for that coin jar. Are you going to overlook it like everyone else? Or are you going to take the step that could change your financial story forever? Because opportunities like this don't wait, and neither should you. From pocket change to millions, from ordinary to extraordinary, the 2007 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is more than metal. It's potential, it's excitement, it's urgency, and it could be your next big opportunity. So check those coins, get them authenticated, and who knows, the fortune you've been walking past might just be waiting for you today.